Happy Friday, North Texas. I'm Scott.
And I'm Bess.
Today is Friday, March 27th, and we've got a co-host this week. Welcome back to the show, Bess.
Thanks, Scott. Happy to be back and bringing you an interview about a new cybersecurity conference coming to UNT next week.
But before we get to that, we've got some news to know for our UNT community. The RSVP window is now open for students who are planning to participate in commencement ceremonies this spring. RSVP instructions have been sent to the official UNT email accounts of all students approved for spring and summer graduation. The deadline to RSVP is 5 p.m. April 8th. Visit commencement.unt.edu for more information. In other deadline news, the Mean Green Gowns for Grads application deadline is this Sunday, March 29th. The program allows students to borrow graduation regalia for free based on need. Alumni who have UNT regalia can donate it to the program, or anyone can make a monetary donation at the link in the show notes. And staying on the theme of graduation, Alumni 101 is a 4-part series designed to help UNT students navigate post-grad life with confidence. It's a chance to learn essential career and financial skills, plus discover how to stay connected with UNT after graduation. Attend at least 2 sessions to receive a UNT zipper pull for your cap and gown. Upcoming sessions for spring 2026 include Healthy Minds, Bright Futures, in partnership with the UNT Health and Wellness Center, will be a virtual lesson on Monday, April 6th. Financially Fearless After College, hosted by the UNT Student Money Management Center, will be a virtual session Thursday, April 9th. Hired and Inspired, in partnership with the UNT Career Center, will be in the University Union Room 385 on Tuesday, April 14th. From Caps to Connections, hosted by the UNT Alumni Association, will be in the University Union Room 382 on Wednesday, April 22nd. All of those sessions will be from 12:30 to 1:45 p.m. on their respective dates, and you can check the link in the show notes to learn more and register. And now for some athletics news, let's check in with Zach Babb for the Mean Green Minute.
Mean Green Softball has a 3-game winning streak going right now. They lost a series opener to UTSA back on Friday, March 20th, but then won the series with back-to-back victories on Saturday and Sunday. That was followed up by a Wednesday home win over Abilene Christian, 5-3. The Mean Green now hit the road for a 3-game conference series this coming weekend. It starts on Friday against Charlotte in Charlotte, North Carolina. The first game's at 5 p.m. Saturday's game is at noon, and Sunday's contest is at 11 a.m., all against the Charlotte 49ers.
Thanks for that update, Zach. So great to see the Mean Green at the top of the American Conference softball standings. Let's keep it going this weekend against Charlotte. But before that series gets going, we've got a podcast episode to do. Bess, tell us about the interview you're bringing us today and what a CISO is.
Yeah, we use the term CISO a lot in this interview, don't we? So CISO is an acronym that stands for Chief Information Security Officers. Last fall, I interviewed Helen Potts, who's a principal lecturer in sociology at UNT and the research and development director and founder of the Network for Exploring the Intersection of Humans and Cybercrime, also known as NEXUS. NEXUS is a new initiative at UNT that connects sociology students with opportunities for research, professional development, and internships in the field of cybersecurity. And on top of that, NEXUS is hosting its first annual Cybercrime and Social Behavior Research Conference on April 2nd. I talked with Dr. Potts about why it's actually really important to look at cybersecurity through a social sciences lens.
I would love to know how NEXUS came about, and then also how the partnership with, I don't know if you pronounce it CISO or spell it,
Yes.
how that came to be as well.
Sure. So it all came about because I had a student, a grad track student, one of the accelerated undergrads going into a master's. So I had a grad track student that wanted to do a paper on, or wanted to focus on cryptocurrency and NFTs and things like this. And one thing led to another, and it ended up that we presented a paper at a conference in New Orleans, and that paper won the Best Paper Award for the conference. So that kind of gave me some encouragement that people were interested in this topic and that we had a good foundation to build off of.
Mhm.
And I knew that this student in particular was interested in going into look at cyber crimes more closely. And as we did kind of a cursory look into what data actually exists, all of it is very criminal justice oriented. It's
Hmm.
like the numbers of this crime and the numbers of that. And it's very numbers, but it's not necessarily about the people or the human experience. And to me, that's where sociology fits in with everything. Like,
Mhm.
as long as there's people, there's sociology, you
Yeah.
know? So I took that. And then my younger brother, Randy Potts, is a CISO for a banking firm in Dallas.
Okay.
So I went to him and I said, we just presented this paper and it won this award. Would you have any interest taking on an intern? Because this student is really interested in this field. And he was like, well, yeah, we take on interns all the time. And one thing led to another. And I started thinking about, well, on top of being a CISO himself, he runs the CISO XC organization, which is a group of 3 CISOs in the DFW area, or they at least live in the DFW area. And those 3 got together during COVID when everybody was very separated and spaced out. And they wanted to bring about community again because what I've learned is information security, as well as the darker side, the hacking side, is very much based on social networking and who you know. And my dissertation was all focused on social capital and social networking. So everything just kind of collided into this one area. So my brother and his 2 good friends created the organization CISO-XC. And one of the main things that it does, aside from philanthropy and going into schools to teach about information security, is it runs at least annually, if not more so, conferences in information security. So it's not necessarily, I mean, yes, they bring in the big names because they're all networked with one another. And they talk about new issues that come up in information security. But at the same time, they invite hackers to come in. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
so we just had, they just had their conference on October 9th, where I had 7 students present their poster presentations from sociology in this.
Mhm.
And there were hackers in the field, just, mixing in with the information security because the majority of information security persons were previously hackers.
Mhm.
And that's how my brother started out. He was a hacker 10, 12, as a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and
Wow.
eventually got noticed by the military and was then involved in all that.
Oh my
It
gosh.
probably could have gone a different way, but yeah, it worked out for him. But they put on these large conferences to really build up the community and to share information and resources. And kind of like in my dissertation, that face to face interaction is how you build trust.
Mhm.
So it's really necessary within a group of people who naturally don't trust anybody because it's their job not to trust anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
interesting.
yes. So I started talking to him, and I just kept having ideas one after the other about how I can build up this focus on cybercrime because I couldn't really find anything out there about cybercrime and sociology. There is some stuff with cybercrime and psychology and like the offender mindset and stuff, but so much of information security as well as cybercrime is social. Why aren't we looking at it? Why aren't we looking at the human aspect of things?
Mhm.
So I asked my brother if my student could present at the conference, and he was like, yes. And then I was like, well, maybe other students want to go to this conference. And in anything in academia, you're used to going to academic conferences, which are often very, very different from professional conferences. So I thought it would really be a good opportunity for our sociology students to rub elbows in the field of a professional conference with these CISOs. And CISOs are at the C suite level, like a CEO, And how many times in your life do you get to just have a meal with the CEO and ask them, what are your big concerns?
Right.
And this was the time. Their conference brings in about 200 CISOs. So they're all in the area. The CISOs for the Dallas Cowboys was there, for United Airlines, like big named people. And so I drummed up some interest among our sociology students that were interested in presenting, and we worked on poster presentations. So I had that kind of idea going about how it would relate directly to his conference. But then, separate from that, I was like, well, if there's interest, and I'm interested because my bachelor's and master's is in criminology, and it's sociology, but with a focus on criminology. And I kind of moved away from that during my doctoral studies, but it's still very much an interest to me. So I kind of saw this as a path back home to criminology too, that I have the foundation of criminology, I have the theories and the knowledge of that. Why can't I build this up? So I pitched to my chair making a course in cybercrime. And then I was like, well, if we make a course in cybercrime, then there's probably going to be interest for a certificate. So then I pitched for a cybercrime and social behavior certificate. And then I went back to my brother and I was like, I have these ideas. Would you be interested in like partnering up with this? And usually when it's concerning me as a sister, his answer is no. But this was a yes, which really surprised me.
Hmm.
He finally found my utility after 40 plus years. So, yeah, so he agreed to this and he took it back to his CISO XC people. And he was like, would you guys want to partner with UNT Sociology Department? And they were very encouraging by it. And they really wanted to get on board. And they really didn't have, they'd been asked by SMU to create a partnership, but their foundation is in philanthropy. So while they wanted to create a partnership with an academic unit, they wanted to help too. They wanted their impact to be bigger than it would if you were to donate 40,000 to SMU. That's not going to make a big impact. But if you donate $40,000 to the Department of Sociology, that's going to make a pretty big impact.
Hmm.
So from there, we talked about a partnership between the Department of Sociology and CISO XC, and they agreed to help us stabilize and create an endowed scholarship for students interested in the cybercrime field. And so they've donated 35,000 to that. And this October, they donated 5,000 for research help, things with students or getting posters done or things like that, just to kick it off. So that $35,000 donation will be happening at the NEXUS Conference on April 2nd at UNT. So I was able to talk my brother, who doesn't listen to me at all, into a scholarship program, an internship program, getting me speakers from the field, from law enforcement and other CISOs to come into my cybercrime class. And my goal is to really create a cybercrime speaker series where I can open it up to all of UNT. It's just a little bit too much for my plate at the first go around of Nexus. So from that, we created Nexus, and the dean was on board with it. The divisional dean, Lisa Henry, was on board with it. She helped me name Nexus. So I've just gotten some really great positive feedback from people who want to help. And that's kind of how everything got kicked off.
Okay, awesome. That's very cool. I would love to know now, diving a little bit into like the student side, I would love to know about some of the research projects that they'll be undertaking. And I'm curious if maybe the answer is both, or maybe I'm totally off track, but I was curious if the research focuses primarily on how hackers or cyber criminals are finding targets and executing their crimes, or is there more of a focus on how people, or if there are certain groups of people who are more likely to get, become victims of cybercrime? Maybe they're studying both of these things, maybe they're studying something completely different. I'm just curious, like what angles the research is kind of attacking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's all and then some.
Okay.
So it focuses on the perpetrator or the threat actors, and then it also focuses on the information security side because they deal with a lot of pressure on their side. And they're finally starting to speak out about the PTSD that CISOs have because they're often the ones who take the fall for corporations when there is a breach.
Mm.
The CEO throws the CISO under the bus. The CISO there's been times in recent history where the CISO has been prosecuted for allowing a breach to occur against their will.
Wow.
And then they've even been sentenced to prison. And luckily, at least in one of the bigger cases that I'm aware of, a judge took mercy on the person and waived the time. But the prosecution still went through. So CISOs are dealing with a lot of mental health issues as well. And sociology of mental health is one of the courses that I teach. So right now I have 12 students doing research in cybercrime AI or into the mental health of CISOs right now as extra credit. And they'll all create a poster for the Nexus event, the conference event. But at the October 9th conference, we had a student do research on AI security when it's dealing with suicide prediction programs, if you can trust AI. As we know in the media, cases have come out where AI has actually talked somebody into committing suicide.
Mhm.
So another part of this is if you can trust AI with health data, because so many companies are relying on AI now, but we don't really know, we don't have regulation and we don't know the level of trust. So even looking at how much the general public has trust in letting their medical data be shared with AI, and AI will share it and reuse it.
Mhm.
So it could be from a consumer's point of view, it could be mental health issues or cyberbullying with kids online or social media, really anything and everything from distrust to how different political regimes look at cyber deviance. Because we know there are political regimes that literally have basically paid corporations of hackers to attack other nation states.
Mhm.
So there's so much, and I leave it up to students, which is one of the amazing things to see like where their minds want to go.
Mhm.
And in the mental health class, I have a couple of students, of course, focused on the mental health of children and AI, cyberbullying, things like this, and how it differs between the genders. But I have another student who's more interested in students relying on AI and what that means for critical thinking skills in the long run. If you give it over to AI, how does this play out as this child is maturing and learning to think? So it could be a wide range of things, really.
Okay. So it sounds like it's very open to student interest.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of Nexus is to be student driven research that's also industry driven. So these CISOs are asking us, what about mental health issues? What out there exists and what are other cybercrime information security doesn't exist in a bubble or within a nation state. It crosses borders.
Mhm.
So I want our research to also be that open and cross borders. We already have interdisciplinary connections that we're making across campus and to community colleges. But I also want students to make that connection that this isn't in a bubble, that we're reaching out and we're looking at what the CISOs want us to look at, but we're also pairing that with student interest too. So Nexus is supposed to be student driven, industry proposed research in a sense.
Okay. I would love to know also maybe some of the focuses or topics or issues that maybe CISO is bringing to you all. Like here's some areas of concern. We would love to see research on this. Are there specific topics or areas that they're really interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. So CISOs are the top of their field. You're not going to be able to teach them anything about tech stuff. And their level of education and certifications that they have far exceed anything we could teach at the university.
Mhm.
But there's a whole gap in why people do or don't do what they're supposed to do.
Mhm.
One of the main things that almost every CISO I've spoken to has brought up is, why do humans not change their password? Why do they use the exact same password for all of these sites? Well, they know, and they've had experiences with data breach before. They know it's a bad idea, but they keep doing it. They get alerts that it's a bad idea, that this has been compromised. You want to change your password, and people hit no. I'll do it later. So CISOs want to know things like that. Why are the humans doing what they're doing? We have the information. You can make, like, even at UNT, we have to take those information security modules.
Yes, I just took
Yes,
mine a few weeks ago. Yeah.
exactly. Me too. But they bring these up. They're like, okay, we create these modules to speak human language to people, to tell them that it's interesting, that this impacts them. But we know that people click through these to get the approval, and then they never put things in place. They walk away with their computer screens up with data showing to everybody. Just very basic stuff is difficult to train humans. So they really want to know, how do we make this a human element, but how do we make it important to each of these individuals out there? And how do we teach it to the younger generations that are already involved in AI at an elementary school level?
Mhm.
How do we keep these kids safe? So they really want to know what the human side of it is, because I just went to the cybersecurity symposium from business that was last week, last Thursday and Friday.
Mhm.
And they had some CISOs speaking. And several of the CISOs said, this isn't a tech problem. Technology isn't failing us. What's failing us in security is people. What's always failed us is people. So, how do we make that human connection? Because people aren't going to change their behavior unless it matters to them.
Mhm.
So, part of the goal behind this, in terms of the industry driven ideas, is to figure out ways and maybe have something like a hackathon on cybercrime and compete in ways. How can we newly innovate ideas that will actually reach people and they'll put into practice? Because your weakest person in the organization is how strong your organization is going to be in terms of cybersecurity.
Mhm.
And for the most part, it's wide open because people, we just don't make the changes unless we absolutely have to, and at least unless somebody is forcing us to do it. And these CISOs have all the technology, they know what to do, they tell people what to do, but it doesn't make that human connection where people see a vested interest in it for themselves and for their children.
Gotcha. And then you mentioned that there are some interdisciplinary partnerships that you've been making on campus. Could you let me know, like, what other departments or organizations or even colleges you're working with Nexus?
Yeah. So, as part of the cybercrime certificate that we have, students can choose between two sociology courses, and then there's two other courses outside the discipline that they can choose from. Three of those courses are in philosophy. One of them's in economics, and we'll have some others add in. I just can't say anything because it's not official yet, and I need
Okay,
to get a final approval to the others on the
gotcha.
certificate. But I've recently been working with a professor from information technology and decision science, Dr. Michelle Fatty, and participate in his hackathon concerning information technology with sports and new innovative ways to connect people and cultures into sports. So it kind of gave me that idea with cybercrime too. So there's information technology and decision science. Then there's the College of Business. And I spoke with many of them last week at their cybersecurity symposium about connecting through that and having their students also do something at the NEXUS Conference. And then I think on the 17th, we have a meeting with the director for National Security Program on campus.
Okay.
So we're going to be making that connection as well.
Okay, awesome. Beyond these kind of, internship and possible enrollment, or at least professional development opportunities that student researchers are getting through Nexus. I guess I'm curious as an educator, what kind of benefits you think that they're going to get just from doing this type of research, kind of in this subject area.
Yeah, another addition to my class is that all of the speakers in information security, they'll play the role of a speaker for one day within the entire semester, but also I'm going to break my class up into pods so that each of the information security speakers also serves as a mentor for the students. So they have a sounding board for their ideas about information security or cybercrime, but they also have somebody to go to about professionalism, about getting a professional photo taken and put on LinkedIn, about creating their LinkedIn account, about shaking hands even, or answering phone calls or meeting for coffee. So I think a lot of this will also help to underscore the importance of professionalism to outside academia, which we really don't have a good bridge for within academia, at least not in the social sciences.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, that was what excited me so much about this too, was just like it can be tough sometimes to find. I mean, I have a humanities background and I feel like
Yeah.
I've always personally been able to see the importance of having the humanities in everyday life, but it can be tough to make that super obvious in practical ways, like to employers or, so that's awesome that they're getting this professionalization just alongside with the research skills and the education
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
learning.
definitely.
That was a great interview, Bess. Loved hearing about that sibling dynamic and how it brought together this new initiative and conference.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this first conference goes and how it continues to grow in the years to come.
Speaking of growing, remember you can help us grow by telling a friend about the show, sharing it on social media, or leaving us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen. You can also let us know what you think about the show directly by emailing podcast@unt.edu or calling 940-565-4341. Until next time, we hope you have a happy Friday, North Texas.
And go Mean Green.
Happy Friday, North Texas is a production of the University of North Texas. Today's show was produced and edited by Scott Brown with original reporting by Bess Whitby. For more information, visit unt.edu/podcast.